Good morning, students and parents. Hope you're doing well. This next video is going to be mathematics area, but we're going to add measurements to it. So last week we measured squares inside an area, and we did that with crackers. And we got a little bit more abstract when we took the trackers away. We also measured perimeter, and we found out that there was two operations for measuring the area and measuring the perimeter. The first one was multiplication for measuring the area, and the second one was for addition. So we're going to use those same operations, but we aren't going to use crackers any longer. We're going to use measurements. So we're going to apply measurements to our squares and our perimeters. Here's a common way of measuring things. This is called a standard measurement. Standard measurements are ones that everybody can agree on. So everybody agrees throughout the world that this is what inches look like, and we have 6 of them. Everyone agrees throughout the world that this is what centimeters looks like, and we have 15 of them. So we're going to make our square this time. Instead of out of crackers, we're going to make our square out of inches. So let me show you how to do that with your graph paper. Hopefully you have a graph paper in front of you, you have a ruler, and you have a pencil. You're just going to follow along with me and do this together. I'll give you a moment to get that together. Pause the video if you need to. So to make a square inch, I'm going to pick a point with my pencil right here, and I'm going to use my ruler to measure an inch from 0 to 1. So this is like a number line, but these lengths are standard lengths. This line is 1 inch. Now I'm going to make a square out of that, so I'm going to have 4 sides, and they're all going to be equal, and that defines a square. A square is where 4 sides are equal. My graph paper helps me do this a little bit easier than if the paper was blank or just lined. And there I have my square. So remember, this is 1 square inch. So instead of being a cracker, we have a square inch. So this equals 1 square. I'm going to use my abbreviation for square, SQ period, inch. So go ahead and complete that. Pause the video if you need to. Now, since this is exactly a square inch and we can all agree with that, this is an example of something that's concrete. Remember we talked about that, how things can be concrete and abstract? And we go from concrete examples to more abstract examples. Go ahead and write the word concrete there and put a little cloud around it. So now I'm going to have to set up my area, and my area is going to be set up in inches. So again, pick a point, put your ruler on that point, and just mark off 1 inch, 2 inch, 3 inches, and then draw a line connecting all those points. So this is a 3-inch side. Now down the other side, we're going to do 5 inches. So put your 0 on that point, mark 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. They should land on these lines because this graph paper is standard graph paper. They've made these squares to fit our rulers. So now I have 3 inches along here and 5 inches along here. So if you remember, our areas are in rectangles, so I'm going to try and find the point here that lines up with this side and this side. And then I'm just going to draw my line. If you want to measure, you can go ahead and measure as well, but we're going to shortcut this a little bit on these 2 sides because each of these sides are equal to the other side. Now, let's go ahead and put in our rows and our columns as well. And you can follow along with me. You can pause the video if you want. But I'm going to put my rows in first. Remember, our rows go from left to right. And then I'm going to put my columns in, which go from top to bottom. And I'm using those measurements right here that I put in the sides to make it really easy to make uniform squares in each one of these. Now, if you remember, one of these now is a square inch, and that's a concrete example because these are exactly 1 square inch. So we could put a square inch in here, and a square inch in here. Now you can pause the video again, but let's go ahead and write our square inches in here because this is what we're measuring on the inside of our rectangle. This is kind of boring. I have a hard time doing this consistently each time. Some of you might be better at this. But remember, we're making a concrete example of how to find the area. And we'll shortcut this and be a little bit more abstract in the later video. On this side, we said our rows go from left to right. So I have 5 rows here. And from top to bottom, or bottom to top, I have 3 columns here. Now, if I were to measure across here, and we wanted to eliminate putting 3 columns here, we could say this is 3 inches. We could do the same thing with these 5 rows. On this side, along this side, we've already measured 5 inches, so we could say that instead of 5 rows, we can say this side is 5 inches. Okay. So when you're done, your graph paper should look like this. Pause the video if you need a little bit more time to catch up. Now we're going to do our math. What operation did we say we used to find the area inside this rectangle? Does anybody remember? If you said multiplication, you're right. And we're going to put a little X on the corner here. So this becomes a multiplication equation. And the first time we wrote our multiplication equations, we just put our factors in. So multiplication consists of one factor times another factor is going to equal a product. And we can put either number in first. We could put a 5 in here first and then use our 3 over here. We could put our 3 in here first and we use a 5 over here. Our product is going to be the same. So I always like to put the smaller number in here first. You can do it either way though. And I'm going to put the larger number in here. So we're using math by itself to find the area of a rectangle that's 3 inches by 5 inches. So I'm going to abbreviate inch IN. Not squares yet, because we're just talking about the sides here. So this is 3 inches by 5 inches. Our square is going to go here, if you remember, right? How many squares are going to be in a 3-inch by 5-inch rectangle? I'll let you figure out the math for a little bit. If you said 15, you're correct. And now we're going to add our measurement to it. These are not crackers we're measuring anymore. These are inches. And I'm going to abbreviate IN for inches. So 3-inch rectangle by 5-inch rectangle equals a 15 square inch area. That's a little hard to wrap our heads around sometimes. But this is really a concrete example. This is exactly 15 square inches on our paper here. It's not imaginary. It's exactly, we could all agree to that because we used a standard form of measurement to determine what the square inches are going to be. I hope this was helpful for you. We're going to go a little bit more abstract in the next video as far as measuring area. I'm going to use some other examples of how we measure area on large and small, and then we're going to go even more abstract than that. We're going to simplify it by using abstract ideas, but this concept, this concrete concept, you have to understand first.